Ukrainian drone is changing the game. Autopilot, interception and ease of use. The Kremlin is melting down. SkyShark is headed to Moscow. Rocket-powered kamikaze drones already on the way. Long Neptune and Tigershark are in the air. Panic in the Kremlin is off the charts. Trump dared. Tomahawks will hit Moscow. US miracle missiles could turn the front. And another country is jumping in. Factors, ammunition, logistics, a full pipeline to the front. Surge of new weapons for Ukraine. Moscow is stunned. All the details coming up in a moment. Hello, this is Ukraine Today. I'm Maria Farafonova, and here are the latest news. Reconnaissance and strike drones of the aggressor state, brace yourselves. The Ukrainian Blitz interceptor, unveiled by Global Mark, is heading out on the hunt.
Drone specifications: wingspan 1.5 meters, weight 5 kilograms, operational range 30 to 100 kilometers, speed 90 to 130 kilometers per hour, depending on the variant, max altitude 4,000 meters. Flight time 20 to 60 minutes.
This new system is built to detect and destroy enemy reconnaissance and strike UAVs, and it has already been presented to the public. This interceptor is designed to counter reconnaissance UAVs such as Zala, Supercam and Orlan, as well as strike types like Charon and Shahed. It is launched from the ground and can be fitted with the target acquisition and terminal homing model. Blitz is equipped with an autopilot and an automatic target tracking system, allowing it to be operated even by non-specialist crews. In addition to strike roles, it can conduct photo and video reconnaissance missions. The aircraft is powered by an electric motor. The sky is buzzing. The British SkyShark rocket drones are already headed to Ukraine. Developed by MGI Engineering, these powerful monsters could begin missions as early as mid-October, according to the company head Mike Gascoigne. MGI also says Ukrainian firms are interested in localizing production at domestic facilities. That's good news for the armed forces of Ukraine and a major headache for the Kremlin. SkyShark is a kamikaze rocket drone with a strike radius of up to 250 kilometers. SkyShark is a kamikaze rocket drone with a strike radius of up to 250 kilometers and a warhead of up to 20 kilograms. Its top speed is about 450 kilometers per hour, and the developers say it can operate under satellite navigation jamming. The unit cost is roughly 50,000 pounds or $67,000, which experts consider cost-effective for strike operations. And even more drones will be coming to Ukraine. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said that half of the 4 billion euros the European Union transferred to Ukraine on October 1st is to be allocated to drone production. According to von der Leyen, the EU views Ukraine as Europe's first line of defense and must therefore step up military support. Ukrainian military engineers aren't falling behind either. The specifications of the Long Neptune missile have been revealed. According to Defense Express, its range is about 1,000 kilometers, 3.5 times greater than the declared range of the anti-ship version. At the same time, the warhead was increased to 260 kilograms versus 150 kilograms for the anti-ship variant, which is unexpected for such an upgrade since extended range is usually achieved by reducing the warhead. The missile measures 6 meters in length without the booster, about 1.5 meters longer than before. Its body diameter was increased to 50 centimeters, up from 38 centimeters. Another key point, it is stated to be capable of engaging both land and maritime targets, and it retains the ability to strike moving targets. The enemy is shaken with fear. The United States will provide Ukraine with intelligence for strikes deep inside Russia. According to the Wall Street Journal, Donald Trump has signed off on allowing the Pentagon and U.S. intelligence agencies to help Kyiv target the aggressor's oil and energy infrastructure. So Russia is preparing for a real nightmare.
Trump has approved sharing targeting data with Ukrainians as the administration weighs sending powerful weapons.
And we definitely have the means to strike deep inside Russia. A great deal is in the works, and it will shake Moscow. Ukraine and the United States are preparing a major weapons breakthrough. President Zelensky has made a stunning announcement. On the table now, long-range missiles capable of reaching the very heart of Russia. Where could this missile strike? All the details, watch now.
A 180-degree turn. Very soon, the White House will provide Ukraine with long-range Tomahawk missiles. This was stated over the weekend in an interview with Fox News by U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance. And just 2 days later, U.S. Special Envoy Keith Kellogg confirmed these intentions. Donald Trump will allow Ukraine to carry out long-range strikes on Russia.
I think that having read what he said, as well as what Vice President Vance and Secretary of State Rubio said, the answer is yes. Use the opportunity to carry out long-range strikes. There is nothing sacred about it. And this is one of the reasons why I believe that last week President Zelensky asked President Trump to obtain Tomahawk missiles.
Just 2 weeks ago, Trump and his administration were categorically opposed to transferring, let alone striking Russian territory with American Tomahawk missiles. But after the meeting between Zelensky and Trump in New York on September 23rd, the White House's rhetoric changed. Ukraine's main argument is that having such missiles could increase pressure on Russia and force Putin to come to the negotiating table, possibly even without actually using this type of weapon. The transfer of Tomahawks also drew a response from the Kremlin. Putin's press secretary Peskov stated that there is no magic weapon for Kyiv that can change the dynamics on the battlefield.
There is no panacea that can change the situation on the front lines right now for the Kiev regime. There is no magic weapon, and whether it's Tomahawks or other missiles, they won't be able to change the dynamics.
Tomahawk missiles have a range of up to 1,600 kilometers, which significantly exceeds the capabilities of the American ATACMS multiple launch rocket systems used by the Ukrainian armed forces. The Tomahawk has greater speed and combat power compared to Ukrainian drones, which are capable of striking deep into Russian territory, but often encounter modern Russian air defense systems.
This is a bad message for the military and those who support them, who are located in the Bryansk, Kursk, Voronezh and Rostov regions at the very least, and of course in the occupied territories. Wherever there are enemy military facilities, I believe that the demilitarization of Crimea from Russian presence will also continue, and Donetsk is occupied, as is Luhansk. There will be even more strikes on them.
President Zelensky handed President Trump a list of the necessary military aid as part of a $90 billion agreement. Additionally, Ukraine wants to hold separate negotiations with the US regarding the supply of specific types of weapons, particularly long-range ones.
All of this is provided for in our $90 billion agreement. But we are ready for separate agreements on specific types of weapons, including long-range ones. I can't share any more details.
The student is far away. I can't give any more details.
According to the British publication The Sun, Ukrainian attacks on the oil refining sector alone have caused Russia more than $100 billion in damage. And that's without Tomahawk missiles. If they appear, the amount of damage will increase many times over.
A real surge of weapons. Ukraine is set to receive the latest Swedish fighter jets. Ukraine's Ministry of Defense has announced the transfer of Sweden's multi-role Gripen fighters to Ukraine. In addition to the Swedish aircraft, Kyiv will also receive more American F-16 fighters as well as French Mirage jets. Ukraine's Deputy Defense Minister Ivan Havrilyuk declined to specify timelines of quantities, noting that confirmation will be obvious when everyone sees the fighters in the skies over Ukraine. Experts say Ukraine's air fleet is on the verge of a true revolution. Watch our report for what's known so far about the new delivery.
To defend more effectively and attack more successfully, the Ukrainian General Staff has confirmed the upcoming transfer of an additional batch of Western fighter jets to the armed forces of Ukraine. In addition, new deliveries of Patriot systems are expected from several allies at once. This fall, Ukraine definitely does not intend to leave Moscow's strikes unanswered.
Obviously, the Air Force's impressive fleet will be significantly expanded, and our overall capabilities will undoubtedly grow even further. This is important.
In an interview with the BBC, Ukraine's first Deputy Defense Minister, Lieutenant General Ivan Havrilyuk, said that Kyiv is preparing to receive several types of new aircraft at once.
Havrilyuk was asked when the next deliveries would take place. He replied, "Let's just say, when you see them in the skies over Ukraine, then you'll know." Bravo. A very good correct answer. So that the enemy doesn't understand or know, but also so that there are no unrealistic expectations here. Just a clear, normal, pragmatic working position. They'll be in the air carrying out combat missions, and we'll see.
The only thing Havrilyuk revealed was the models of the upcoming reinforcements. So, we're talking about a new batch of F-16S, French Mirage 2000S, and Swedish Gripens.
These are exceptionally highly effective and incredibly powerful aircraft, meticulously developed by the Swedish aerospace industry, specifically to skillfully counter a significantly stronger, much better resourced adversary.
Analysts explain, given the number of sorties flown by Ukrainian aviation, the issue of maintainability is far from insignificant. It is also extremely important that the aircraft can be equipped with Ukrainian, European, and American weaponry on its hard points. After all, supplies to Ukraine are now coming from all over the world, and the Gripen meets these requirements.
All these years, the Swedish army has been preparing to fight against the Russian Federation, and accordingly, the aircraft they developed, specifically the JAS-39, were designed to be maintainable, relatively inexpensive, and multifunctional.
At the same time, in terms of maneuverability, they are head and shoulders above all Soviet aircraft and many Western ones, which will give our pilots a clear advantage when operating directly near the front line.
The fighters are very reliable, highly effective, and in some technical specifications, they are even better than the F-16S we are expecting to receive.
Another addition to the Ukrainian Air Force will be the French Mirages, aircraft already familiar to our pilots and especially often used for long-range strikes with Scalp and Storm Shadow missiles.
6,900 kilograms of payload. This can include bombs, missiles, a huge variety. Moreover, there can be external fuel tanks, so the payload weight may decrease if increased range is needed or if the aircraft simply needs to stay in the air for a long time. For example, for intercepting something or for patrolling.
At the same time, analysts say these aircraft also perform well during large-scale operations. The fact is that French fighter jets have an advanced data transmission system between aircraft, which allows them to carry out missions more effectively as a group.
It can communicate with AWACS systems, and thanks to this, it can see much more. This essentially compensates for the shortcomings of its own radar. The ability to create three-dimensional objects on the display simplifies both ground attacks and flying at low altitudes. However, it should be noted that Mirages are specifically designed to operate as a team. They exchange information with each other with ground-based radars and with AWACS systems.
In addition to carrying out more effective strikes, Ukraine will also be able to defend itself more efficiently. According to President Volodymyr Zelensky, Israel delivered an additional Patriot air defense system to us at the end of the summer. 2 more systems are already on their way.
The Israeli system has been operating in Ukraine for a month. We will receive 2 Patriot systems in the fall. That's all for now. I won't say anything more about the Patriot.
But the German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius, on the other hand, was quite willing to talk. He confirmed that it is Berlin that is handling the delivery of Patriots to Ukraine, in addition to the 3 already provided. However, the main intrigue surrounding the transfer of additional weapons to Ukraine today remains the American Tomahawk missiles. The Institute for the Study of War stated that Moscow is already trying to disrupt these deliveries, claiming that in response it might deploy its own Oreshnik in Venezuela. However, according to rumors from Washington, these threats have had no effect on the White House.
Czechia is crashing into the war with Russia as well. Joint production of lethal weapons with Ukraine is set to launch at factories on Allied territory, and streams of ammunition from Czech stockpiles will go straight to the front. Full control over supplies, independent reservoirs, and dedicated logistics. This isn't just aid, it's a strategic game changer that could bury the Kremlin's plans. Don't miss it. Details next.
Ukraine and the Czech Republic are creating their own Ramstein. The goal of our country is to deepen this cooperation through the signing of an intergovernmental agreement and a support program for affected enterprises called Industrial Ramstein, noted Ukraine's Minister of Economy, Environment and Agriculture, Oleksiy Sobolev.
Not only the Czech defense industry, but also the country's political leadership at the moment of the so-called Czech initiatives is a key element in the material and technical support of Ukraine's defense forces.
The Embassy of the Czech Republic in Kyiv reports that the Czech Republic supports Ukraine's democratic transformation and Euro-Atlantic integration, both politically and through concrete projects and initiatives. For the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Czech Republic, Ukraine is a priority country for transformational cooperation, a country of special focus within Czech development cooperation, as well as a beneficiary of humanitarian aid.
At present, according to the Czech initiative, around 2 million artillery shells have already been delivered. This has significantly strengthened the positions of Ukraine's defense forces both in the moment and in counter-battery warfare, and accordingly the effectiveness of firepower against the Russian occupiers. The Czech side has provided the armed forces of Ukraine with about 70 T-72 M1 tanks, more than 140 infantry fighting vehicles, multiple launch rocket systems, and accordingly has delivered about 4.5 million rounds of ammunition. This includes shells for artillery systems and rocket projectiles, plus firearms.
Despite the war in Ukraine, 220 Czech companies remain there. Also, as part of the cooperation, Ukraine plans to provide the Czech Republic with a list of the industrial equipment needed by enterprises that have suffered as a result of military actions.
In this country, repairs are carried out on damaged armored vehicles and weaponry. In addition, artillery shells are produced here, primarily of the Soviet type, with a caliber of 152 millimeters. In other words, these are the enterprises that have remained in the Czech Republic since the days of the Warsaw Pact. And considering that about 70% of the weaponry used by the armed forces of Ukraine is still of Soviet design, this is invaluable assistance from this country.
Within the framework of the Czech initiative, the processes of purchasing and delivering ammunition are being optimized.
The Czech side has also transferred both airplanes and helicopters to the defense forces of Ukraine, taken respectively from the aviation units of its own armed forces. At the moment, the main initiative of the Czech Republic is precisely the creation of so-called coalitions, primarily aimed at improving the capabilities of the defense forces of Ukraine in confronting Russian aggression.
The historical memory of the Czech people remembers well the disaster that Russia can bring to another land. That is why the Czechs support Ukraine, which is now fighting the aggressor, preventing the Russians from seizing both their own country and all of Europe.
And that's not all. Ukraine is ramping up cruise missile production. More fury incoming. Our engineers pulled off the impossible. Flamingo production capacity will quadruple. A true breakthrough is underway. Not just missiles and drones. What fury onslaught have Ukrainian forces prepared for the enemy? Don't miss the exclusive details ahead.
A new level and scale. Ukraine is ramping up the production of cruise missiles. The developers of the Ukrainian Flamingo missile have stated that the company is producing 50 missiles per month and plans to reach a daily output of 7 missiles by the end of the year. The company claims that its proprietary wing manufacturing technology, which shortens the production cycle, is helping to scale up operations. It should be noted that the Ukrainian missile can fly up to 3,000 kilometers and carry a ton of explosives. In August, the Flamingo struck Russian targets in temporarily occupied Crimea. Early in the morning, 3 missiles were launched from the Ukrainian coast. The strike hit a base of Russian border guards, which is overseen by the Federal Security Service of the aggressor country. Additionally, the manufacturers of the Flamingo have announced the development of their own ballistic missiles, the FP7 and FP9, as well as their defense systems. Thanks to private companies, Ukraine will be able to create innovations in the defense industry and effectively implement them on the battlefield.
It was precisely during the years of the full-scale invasion that Ukraine's defense industry made a revolutionary breakthrough in the production of Ukrainian ballistic missiles. First and foremost, this refers to the modernized version of the Neptune missile. The anti-ship version of the Neptune was modernized to strike land targets. And at the moment, as a result of improved technical and tactical characteristics, according to the developer's assessment, the Neptune now has a range of up to 1,000 kilometers. In addition, the Ukrainian Defense Forces are armed with the previously mentioned operational tactical complex Sapsan, which has a range of up to 500 kilometers. Furthermore, during the years of war, the Ukrainian Defense Forces have demonstrated a unique ability to modernize even Soviet-era weapon systems. Specifically, this refers to the S-200 surface-to-air missile system.
Another of the most important developments has been missile drones such as Palyanytsia, Peklo, Ruta, and Bars.
During the period of the large-scale invasion, Ukraine's defense industry has evolved in terms of producing its own strike weapons. And of course, let's not forget about strike drones. Here, according to the KLG, which is an official recognition of Ukraine's achievements, Ukraine holds leading positions in the world.
The Ukrainian armed forces are successfully striking military targets in the Russian Federation, with oil refineries coming under the sights of drone forces. Drone attacks have put up to 17% of Russia's oil refining capacity out of commission. Ukraine is also actively working on the production of interceptor drones. The Minister of Defense stated that Kyiv will soon reach the capacity to deploy at least 1,000 of these UAVs per day to defend against Russian attacks.
Ukraine holds a leading position in the production of interceptor drones at this moment. This is a Ukrainian know-how. To put the situation into perspective, during the latest provocation by the Russian Federation, specifically the violation of Polish airspace, in order to neutralize decoy Gerberer drones costing $10,000 each, NATO countries' air defense forces used missiles worth $1.5 million. Meanwhile, the relevant Ukrainian side is currently scaling up the so-called drone wall tactic, specifically the use of interceptor drones.
Ukraine is also developing a new air defense system of the air-to-air class, capable of covering large areas. All this means that Ukrainian developers have demonstrated the ability to create high-precision weaponry capable of destroying important enemy military targets deep behind the front lines.
What do you think about the latest events? Share your opinion in the comments, like the video, and stay informed about the main headlines. More to come.